Welcome into Hoosier Game Day. I'm Jack Edwards, riding it solo without Callie Metzger here today, but we still have a full show full of content for all sides of this weekend's contest between the Indiana Hoosiers and the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. After a kind of thrilling matchup in the rain last weekend between Indiana and Idaho, which Indiana barely squeaked out after a porous first half, Indiana now looks to go to 3-0 at the back end of this three-match homestand. Now, on the Indiana side of things will be Evan Gerike from the Hoosier Network, and on the Western Kentucky side of things will be William McDermott of WIUX Sports. Before we get into next week, or this week I should say, let's look back through the lens of Carlo Barone.
With Indiana's second win in just as many weeks, the team has already matched their win total from last season. How did they do it? Well, they didn't make it easy on themselves. Trailing by 10 at halftime, the Hoosiers had to make some major adjustments.
Just to be able for the guys to be able to dig deep, and I grabbed individual leaders on our team in each different areas and challenged them to make sure our guys came out the second half ready to compete. So the response was very encouraging. We just can't wait for halftime to start playing football.
The Hoosiers didn't get their most emphatic win, but it could prove to be a crucial one.
Now, obviously, everyone wants to see 50 points in the first half, whatever. But I think it's, sometimes it's, you look at the good side, the good part of it. It forced us to, being shut out in the first half, it forced us to, come all together.
It wasn't the prettiest of games by Indiana or played in the prettiest conditions. But just like the second half weather clearing, so did Indiana's offensive struggles. Connor Bazelak and the offense opened up the game in the third quarter, largely due to their halftime adjustments.
Just shows you that we were able to come together, and face the adversity. It's just a huge part of the game. It's going to be a good experience for down the road.
Last night was a tale of two halves for the Hoosiers, one that will surely prepare them for adversity ahead. Indiana will look to keep their winning streak going next weekend as they host Western Kentucky. For the Hoosier Network, I've been Carlo Barone.
Now on to this week's contest. We're joined by William McDermott of WIUX Sports to talk about the Hilltoppers. William, how are you doing?
I'm happy to be here, Jack. It's early on a Friday morning, but we're here and we're awake and ready to talk some Western Kentucky football.
I'm very excited, William. So kind of breaking down the season as a whole so far, bye week last week,
right.
2 wins on the year. Kind of give me the lowdown on what they've brought them to this point.
Well, they took on Austin Peay in week 0, and then a pretty good Hawaii team who just lost to Michigan last week in week 2. And I think first takeaways for both of these teams is that they score, and they score a lot. And it's been like that through their head coach's entire career at Western Kentucky. They want to get out and run. They want to play fast. They want to score a lot of points, and that's what we've seen. They're averaging around 43 points a game through their first 2 games.
And these two teams faced off last year and was a tight matchup in Western Kentucky. Indiana took that one by 2 points. Indiana's side looks very different last year than it does this year. Western Kentucky, similar situation?
I think both teams completely new offenses, new quarterback for both teams. Both teams want to play fast, obviously. New offensive coordinators on both sides as well. So I think it'll be interesting to see kind of the dynamic we have there in terms of the offenses. Though in terms of the defenses, things are pretty much staying the same, Jack. I mean, you've got 2 veteran Ds who are ready to go at it.
In terms of being on a bye week, how big of an impact is that going to have, you think, for Western Kentucky's game plan?
It goes hand in hand. I think it, could help them just get ready for a Power 5 opponent on the road. That's always going to be a challenge. But I think, you want to have that juice of you're just coming off a win, or, you're coming off some time that you were just out there playing. It's also going to be Western Kentucky's second road trip of the season. Obviously, they had that road trip to Hawaii. That's probably why they got the bye week off, got some time, spend in the sun, tan a little bit, drink some pina coladas, stuff like that.
Sounds like you want to be going to Hawaii.
I would.
Now, they have a similar situation at the quarterback spot where they've got a transfer guy coming in, D2 guy. Tell me a bit about him.
Yeah, Austin Reed transferred out of Division II. I mean, at the D2 level, national champion. He threw for 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns in that season. He's a guy who's won at every single level that he's played at. And I think in this offense, they need a guy who can throw the ball around, guy that can sling the ball around, and he's that guy. They did obviously use Bailey Zappi, who got drafted by the Patriots in the 4th round. He was one of the best quarterbacks they've had in school history. But I think Reed can get it done, and he's like Bazelak in the sense that he can throw the ball around, but he's not going to do anything too crazy or special.
Any other guys you're keeping your eye on in this game?
I think Jaquez Evans off the edge for them. He leads the team in tackles, sacks, and tackles for loss. through the first 2 games of the season. He's a sophomore. He's really good, really talented, really strong. I think he could give Indiana's banged-up offensive line some troubles.
So you've hit a lot on the strengths of Western Kentucky. I'm going to get your predictions now. A bit of a change from how we usually format these things,
Right.
William. How do you see this matchup in Bloomington playing out?
I've got a tight one again like last year, but this time I've got the Hilltoppers coming out on top, 28-24. Western Kentucky comes into Memorial Stadium and squeaks out with a win.
That'd be a big one. That would be a very big one for Western Kentucky if they can pull that one off. We're going to say goodbye to William. Thank you very much for coming onto the show here
Thanks
today.
for having me, Jack.
And now we're going to, before we bring in Evan Gerike for some Indiana side of things, let's go back to our good friend Max Parker, who has more Indiana coverage.
The Hoosiers were coming off another win, but this win didn't exactly leave the team feeling satisfied.
We won, so that's a positive thing. But obviously didn't start the right way, poor first half.
But now the attention needs to shift as they face Western Kentucky for the second year in a row. This time, the Hilltoppers' strong offensive line is the key focus for the Hoosiers.
They probably play the best as a unit that we've seen yet, and that probably we will see this season.
How did the Hoosiers combat a cohesive offensive front? With a cohesive defensive front of their own.
Well, for us, you know, we talk about being a unit ourselves, right? We have to operate as 4, including the bull. And then naturally for us, we talk about a front 7, which brings in the linebackers, Casey and those guys into the fold. And so we have to understand that we have to work as a unit.
How does this defensive line play together on the same page? Well, they're all under this foundation that's being built for this Indiana defense. Head coach Tom Allen took back over the play calling duties for the defense, and new defensive coordinator Chad Wilt is on the exact same page about establishing a strong and focused foundation.
You know, we talk about our defense. The DNA is takeaways, tackling, and effort. But the pillars of how we play is edge, hungry, focus.
We have a lot of pillars in our defense, and as a team as a whole, and it gives us a lot to focus on. And having the edge always gives us an advantage, and having that mindset every day during practice, especially on Tuesday, work day, and attacking every rip that we can, because how we practice will reflect over the game.
Hearing how these players talk, it's clear the coach's messages are getting through. It's just a matter of how it translates to game day. For the Hoosier Network, I'm Max Parker.
Yeah, thanks, Max, for some great content there. Now we're on to the Indiana side of things. I'm joined by Evan Gerike of the Hoosier Network. Evan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here. I always love being on camera with you, Jack.
I think we were debating this before we got on. You know, we've gone to school together now. This is our 4th year. Might be our first time doing something like this on camera together. Yeah. Special moment for us. But let's get back to things that actually matter, and that's Indiana football. Last week was kind of ugly, Evan, that first half. The weather making it so that way. There was a pretty bad fan showing. I'm not going to blame the fans. I was one of the fans who was, trying not to suffer in the rain out there. In terms of the performance in that first half, what went wrong?
Yeah, it felt like a bunch of things that all came together in Indiana and really led to that really bad first half. The weather is definitely one of them. You're playing in a slick environment. They practice and tried to practice in the rain. They called it Wet Ball Wednesday to kind of get you prepared for that because they knew the rain was coming. It didn't seem to work as much as maybe they were hoping. Bazelak seemed to really struggle in hitting his throws. He missed some wide open guys. Even with times when he would hit his throws, it felt like they were low to the ground and the guys were falling immediately. And then Idaho just played well. I mean, they didn't seem to be affected by the weather nearly as much as Indiana did, which is obviously a big advantage for them. They came out hungry against Indiana, really looking to try to shock the world in a day where we saw a bunch of other teams get upset in relatively surprising fashion. Notre Dame against Marshall, Georgia Southern beating Nebraska, those 2 big powerhouse schools. And Idaho came out looking like they might be able to do that, and Indiana just didn't have anything in the first half. Whatever they tried, it seemed like it just everything went wrong, and then whatever happened at halftime, whatever they talked about seemed to really help because this team came out a lot better in the second half.
And so I guess your final takeaways from that game was positive, negative, because obviously the response was great. Putting yourself in that hole is bad. For you on the weight of things, how did you view that first performance?
I think it really entirely depends on how this team takes that lesson and applies it to weeks in the future. If every week they feel like they're coming out slow and getting shocked, that's bad. If they learn from this and they learned from it in the first half and took the lesson in the second half and came out and played really well, especially in that third quarter. If they learn from this and put it in every single game moving forward where they come out strong against teams that even they maybe shouldn't be and they come out like that, that's going to be huge. There's a lesson to be taken from this game. and whether or not Indiana kind of takes advantage of it in the future games is going to be really important to how the season goes.
You wrote on the HoosierNetwork.com about focus and kind of how Tom Allen spoke on that, the lack last week and what that means going forward, kind of just elaborating on that for you. What do you expect going forward in terms of just the ability to stay focused, locked in, week on week for their matchups?
Yeah, Tom Allen talked about how it wasn't a lack of effort that really led to them struggling against Idaho in the first half. It was just focus. They came out last year against Idaho and they beat them pretty handily, 56-14. Didn't really struggle. It was really a big special teams game. I remember looking at the stats from last season before the game, and it wasn't like a lot of offense. I think they had 20 more rushing yards, and they didn't even have 200 rushing yards. But they came out against Idaho this year expecting to do the same thing. It's pretty much the same team, new quarterback, couple new faces, new coach. But whatever they thought they were going to get from Idaho is not what they did get. And Tom Allen talked about that, about how they really weren't focused as much as they should be. And then in the second half, they flipped the switch, and it's a lot better going forward. This week, they don't really have to worry about the same idea against Idaho because Western Kentucky almost shocked them last year. It's 33-31. It was a really close game. They came out and played well in Bowling Green with a high-flying offense and a good defense. So Indiana's a little bit more concerned about making sure they don't get surprised again this week. So they've got a Western Kentucky team where they're really focused, and all their leaders, their captains on the team, have really made sure that the team is kind of buckling down and making sure that they go into this game with focus so they can avoid being upset at home.
Now, slow starts kind of this first half. How do you anticipate the Hoosiers getting this game against Western Kentucky rolling?
Yeah, I want to see something from that first couple drives where the offense really moves it down the field with relative ease. This is a really good defense from Western Kentucky. There's a team that forces a lot of turnovers. They already have 7 interceptions, but Bazelak's got to be able to hit some good throws and kind of march this team down the field early on so that they can get something going early. If they can score, a touchdown and a field goal within the first 3 drives, you're going to be feeling really good about where this team is as long as Western Kentucky isn't scoring all 3. So whatever they have to do at the beginning to get this team going, that's going to be really important for the results of the game.
And in terms of individuals for the Hoosiers that could make an impact on things, anybody that you want to see make a big step up, continue good performances to be a big role in this matchup?
Yeah, I think the real key for this offense all season is going to be Sean Shivers. He's the running back on this team. He's he's the engine that makes this team go. And if he's running well, the defense has to respect him. Western Kentucky will have to respect him. If he's moving forward, will have to respect him. They might want to crowd the box a little bit more because he's a guy that can break tackles. He had 86 yards after contact last week. Really kind of the guy that can run through some guys and break out for big runs. We saw 2, a 41-yard touchdown and a 36-yard long rush. And if he's doing that every week, the defenses that Indiana faces are going to have to try to bring in more guys to bring him down, which will open up the offense for Connor Bazelak to really hit some big passes to Cam Camper and DJ Matthews and all those other guys who have been big for the wide receiver corps so far this year.
So let's get into prediction time. 33-31, Indiana took last year's matchup a bit closer than people anticipated. Where do you stand for this year's game?
Yeah, I'm still feeling good about Indiana than maybe a lot of other people are. A lot of people are nervous about this game going in because Western Kentucky has proved that they have such a good offense and a really good defense to match it. But I think they're going to take that lesson from last week and they're going to apply it and they're going to buckle down to start this game. I'm going to go with 35-31 in a bit of a high-flying game, but Indiana's going to come out on top.
So you have a split right now. William going Western Kentucky, you're going the Hoosiers. I'm going to join you on the side of the Hoosiers. I anticipate a 3-0 start to the season. Not as much scoring. I think it's going to be a bit of an uglier, nooner game. But I think we'll get it done in the end, 21-17. It should be an interesting one overall, though, Evan. Thank you very much, Evan, for coming on to the show, as well as to William McDermott, to Emma Watson and Lauren Booher, our producers. I've been Jack Edwards, and this has been Hoosier Game Day.